Good. So how's it been over the last 3 days?
It's really tiring, you know. This is too many people, and then if you really put yourself into it, you know, with each and every one of them, there's like 3 different groups, you know, 5 people at a time. Yeah, by the end of the day, you know, it's
exhausting.
Exhausting, exactly. So I feel the 3rd day is now, and I'm drained more than I train.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's exciting because, you know, you share the knowledge with the people and they appreciate it.
Yeah.
And if you watch some of those training sessions, they're just brutal, you know. And
they look like they got really hammered.
Yeah,
There's people lying down all over the ground out there.
Yesterday, actually, there was a few people that were just pretty much passing out.
Yeah.
So, but you know, to achieve that level of exhaustion, you really have to push them.
Yeah, exactly. So, how many people were involved in?
16.
16.
Yeah,
That's a big group.
Yes.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit how you got into bodybuilding? What's your experience?
Yes, I'm European. I'm from Yugoslavia, and every European kid is always an athlete. You know, we learn how to kick the ball and play basketball before we learn how to walk. Well, my father put me in martial arts, you know, karate, then judo, and then in that sport as a strengthening part, we had a weightlifting. Yep. As soon as I started lifting weights, I fell in love with you know, weightlifting and bodybuilding. Then I've seen, of course, pictures of Arnold, Steve Reeves, Frank Zane, and there was a moment that I had to question myself, how do I want to look? And I did realize that, in my opinion, men should look muscular. And now this is one thing that there's a lot of debate. Oh, you know, guys don't like muscles and girls don't like muscles. I would say that both are just myths. There is no guy that I know of that wouldn't want to have a muscle. They just have that excuse of no, you know, it's not for me. For example, I was in the Yugoslavian army. There was about 5,000 soldiers, and when I started lifting weights, you know, in the army in Yugoslavia, like initially everybody was like making fun. Look at this bodybuilder, ha ha ha. But you know, day after day, week after week, month after month, just about everybody, you know, came and started training with me. Yeah. So whichever man tells me, you know, that they don't want to be muscular, I would call them liars. You know, because if you can choose to be skinny, undeveloped, overweight, obese, or muscular, I don't think it's a hard choice.
Well, it's a picture of strength.
Yes, and health and strength, exactly. Masculinity, you know, man's supposed to be big and strong and protective, right?
That's correct.
So I mean, my father was not a psychiatrist. You know, he actually didn't find bodybuilding being a right thing for guys. You know, kind of narcissistic type of activity. But soon he realized that I didn't, you know, do it from a narcissistic aspect. It just, you know, for bettering myself. You know, this is how I want to look, and I put the effort, and he appreciated it.
And I think some people can get very narcissistic with it, and it becomes a total all-encompassing thing for themselves and all about themselves. So it's good that that's the way you view it.
Yes, but I did it for myself only. You know, I would never show off in public. You know, many times people would, you know, come and ask me to do the pictures, specific ones. I said no. You don't meet Michael Jordan on the street and ask him to throw the hoop. Yeah. You know, I don't oppose anywhere except on stage or during competitions. Yeah.
So, speaking of bodybuilding, who were your mentors growing up, and who did you look up to?
Yeah, really, from bodybuilding aspect, I didn't have a mentor. I idolized Frank Zane, for example, because his physique is something that I wanted to emulate. I respected Arnold. But really, who was my mentor was my father. He was a medical doctor. You know, he directed me in the right direction right from the very start. Initially, I actually didn't believe him, you know, because I knew that he wasn't in bodybuilding. So, as a kid, you know, you're always teenage rebel. You know, what do you know? What do you know? You never lift the weights and stuff like that. So he was telling me specifics that actually right now I apply as my training principles and nutrition. A specific supplementation protocol I actually learned from my father, who basically asked me, okay, so you guys, what do you do, bodybuilders? You know, so I told him, like, you go to the gym, you lift weights, you stimulate all these muscle fibers, you lose ATP, cellular energy, you lose glycogen, amino acids, right? And then after the course of the training, which becomes catabolic activity, you trigger, you know, a recompensation. So body would replenish everything that you had lost. You know, providing you have a right nutrition, nutrients post-workout. So then he basically told me, what you are saying is that you guys have your own house, your body, you break it down every day and then you have to rebuild it. So say, yeah, pretty much that's what exercise physiology recommends. And he told me that's a nonsense. Catabolic state is unhealthy state of the body. It's something that if you are in hospitals, medical community would put alarm, catabolic patient, you know, let's reverse it. So I think that really there is misconception in many people's opinions what training is supposed to be. It doesn't supposed to be catabolic activity. If you do specific things, you can create anabolism, building during the training, not losing. And this is what my father recommended to me. He told me from the very beginning, you need specific nutrients, essential amino acids that building your body, and glucose, which is fuel for muscle contraction. So contrary to just about everybody else around the world, I was doing what he told me, essential amino acids and glucose for duration of the training, and I was getting, you know, tremendous results, and I was very competitive. But because I heard from my father, you know, he wasn't a pro bodybuilder, when I went to the States, I, you know, thought maybe my father was wrong. So I stopped doing this and followed what everybody else was doing, and soon realized there was a big mistake. So, you know, my really true mentor, as the question was, is my father, you know, who logically told me something that I think is common sense. You come to the gym to stimulate the muscle to make your muscle grow, not to destroy it and make you lose all the nutrients, and then hoping that you have enough post-workout nutrition to replenish it.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because that's a way that you've learnt from some mistakes. Is there any other, like mistakes is the best way to learn how to grow. Is there any other training mistakes you've made?
I did. As a matter of fact, you see, everybody when it starts, you know, we think that training more would be better. So initially, first 3 months, I was training for 4 hours a day. I was so enthusiastic about it. Yeah, pretty much 6 days a week. You know, Sunday would always be off. And 4 hours a day, thinking that, of course, if 2 hours is good, 4 is twice as good. And in the first 3 months, actually, I lost a tremendous amount of weight. And the harder I trained, the more I lost, and it was really that puzzling thing, like what I'm doing wrong. So most of the people, you know, have to realize that training is to stimulate, to induce a change in your body to grow. But if you, of course, expend more calories, energy expenditure exceeds your energy intake, you know, you... So the biggest mistake, if you ask me, was overtraining in the beginning. And also the misconception of eating. You know, if you read the medical journals, and they suggest that protein intake for humans should not be any excessive amount. You know, it's like less than 1 gram per kilo of body weight. It's just, you know, insufficient. Those recommendations are directed to the regular person. You know,
not the person that trains.
Not the person who trains, exactly. So the person who trains has dramatically, you know, higher requirement and needs, and also regular person doesn't want to change the body, doesn't want to grow, and we do. You cannot build a house without building material, so you cannot build a body without building material for, you know, human physiology, which is protein, amino acids. So, you know, those two mistakes I see in many people even nowadays, traveling around the world, that most of the beginners have insufficient amount of protein, amount of calories, and they train way too long, unnecessary, you know, prolong the activity. It's really just stimulating and then letting the body respond to it.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the mental aspect of bodybuilding. Some of our followers wanted to know about how you mentally prepare for a show and how you stay on focus and on track with your goal to compete.
Well, you know, in everything that you do, you have to have a mental power. You know, your body is designed to be controlled by the mind, and a lot of those powers of positive thinking or law of attraction. You know, there is a lot to it. You know, if you don't believe it, you're not going to achieve it. So anybody that has some fear, you know, it really reflects on the stage. Going in a bodybuilding competition, of course, on a stage you have to have presenting yourself to the best of your ability. Stage presence has to be confidence, not arrogance. There is a fine line between it.
Yeah.
You have to show to everybody that you enjoy doing what you're doing. And if you really put so much work and effort into it, and you're training so hard, you're dieting meticulously, you're disciplined all your life, you would want to step on a stage and present your hard work. So going into the show, of course, when I prepare guys and girls to step on a stage, I usually make them believe that this is the most exciting event of their life.
That's true.
You have to shine on the stage. I told them, off the stage, you're just a regular person, you don't show off. As I said, that would be narcissistic, right? But when you're on the stage, all these eyes are looking at you, there's thousands of people watching, and then you really have to be somebody else. You have to shine on the stage and reflect all this hard work that you put into it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Can you tell us a little bit about your training philosophy? I've read a bit about your theory on giant sets. Yes. And what's that all about?
Well, I can tell you that much because I trained for over 30 years. I did about any training method that there is. Heavy duty, HIIT methods, high volumes and all that stuff. And there was a moment when I had the opportunity to train one bodybuilder. And in case in less than a year I would be able to put him on an Olympia stage, I would get a huge monetary bonus. So there was actually a moment of truth for me that I had to go in my mind, what would be the maximally beneficial training system? Because we had a very short period of time, and I say, if I'm going to put this guy on Olympia stage, what can I possibly do? So I had to have a maximal training stimulation, maximal nutrition, maximal supplementation, recovery and everything. And when I really thought about what would really be the hardest and most effective way, I realized that back in the day when I did a giant sets, which was the most brutal way of training, I improved the most, and it was really the best method. Why I stopped doing it, people question me, in seminars, like, okay, if this is your best method, why didn't you train like this all your career? And then I figured that even myself, as every human being, we can somehow lie to ourselves and be satisfied with something, like, okay, it's just this kind of training or that kind of training is sufficient. But if anybody honestly answers what is maximally stimulating, they have to realize that if they say heavy duty or whatever other system, super slow or anything, I would tell them, take heavy duty as the first exercise of my giant set, and super slow as the second, and then continue third, fourth, fifth, and as many exercises as you want. If you do the giant sets, obviously you're stimulating much more muscle fibers. You're creating increased hyperemia, increased blood flow to the muscle. All the nutrients in the blood would be delivered and inserted into the more muscle cells of more muscle fibers, doing a giant sets, which is taking 4 or 5 different exercises, maybe more, for the same muscle group, doing it with a variety of angles, stances, grips, tempo, range of motion. So giant set is by far the most effective way. The truth is that whoever questions it or doesn't want to do it, they just don't want to train hard enough.
Scared of it.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
And that was my own truth. This is why I avoided also. When they asked me, there was actually in Japan, there was a seminar, and that moment I'll never forget, because this person said, okay, so this is the best method? I said, absolutely, no comparison. And then they told me, you train like this all your life? I said, no, as a matter of fact, I didn't. But from that moment, that was in 2006, I exclusively train like that, yes. And all my athletes that I prepare, I exclusively train that way. In these training camps, I also presented to all these people. Some had experience and some didn't, and I showed them, how far they can actually go. There is a lot of people that don't believe they can do something like this, and say, okay, I'm not ready for it. And I would take a complete beginner, I'd take them from one exercise to another, to another, to another. And there was the cases that a complete beginner, novice in this, does 15 different exercises in a row. And they finish it. And then after they finish it, they realize, oh my God, I just did this. So why would that same novice guy or girl do one exercise if they can do maybe 10, 15? You know, so if your goal is really, once you step into the gym and your goal is maximal stimulation for maximal results, and let's face it, we all look for a maximal, not so optimal, minimal, right? We all have the maximal results. So my answer to this is, if you are honest yourself, you want the fastest possible results, you have to have a maximal training stimulation, and that comes only from specific giant sets.
I'll have to give it a go.
Yes, please do, because you're not going to regret it. But with the giant sets, maximal stimulation, you have to have a maximal supplementation and nutrition too with it, because one doesn't go without the other.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So now that you're speaking of dieting, what are your philosophies on dieting? Do you follow a specific protocol or any tips that you have?
Yes, I do. So every possible nutrient that you need, you have to have it in sufficient amount at the right time. If you do not have one of the macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, and fat, at any moment, your body would compromise and convert one into another. There is probably 10, 15 years at least of this low carbohydrate craze. Everybody's on low carbohydrate, you know, thinking that carbohydrates, convert into fat and make people fat.
Yeah.
And in every seminar, I tell them, carbohydrates do not convert into fat efficiently in the humans, except if you're overloading your body with excess calories at one time.
Yeah.
Then in certain cases it can be converted maybe 10% of a total amount of carbohydrates into the fat. It's called de novo lipogenesis. It's a conversion of carbohydrates into fat. It does not happen. What actually happens is that if you do eat carbohydrates with a fat and a protein, and your meal is supercaloric, it's more than you need, so it's excess amount. In that sense, in that instance, carbohydrates are being used as a fuel, and body is storing the fat immediately.
Yep.
So it's not that carbohydrates convert into fat, it just carbohydrates are causing your body to hold on to the fat that you're eating. So if your diet is specific and you have either carbohydrates or fat, it wouldn't happen. So my diets that I do for most of the people, I can tell you briefly, immediately. I calculate how many calories they need daily. So that's called physiological needs of the body, basal metabolism. How much your heart needs to beat, and lungs, and thermoregulation, and every physiological need of the body. Okay, that's calculated by Harris-Benedict equation. You can find easily on the internet. You put height, weight, age, gender, and you find what is your physiological needs. Let's say for women, maybe 13 to 1500 calories. Man, let's say 2000. Just to mention a number. And then I have to add everything else, whatever is thermic effect of exercise, all the physical activities that you do throughout the day. If you do the cardio, how many calories? 400 or 500 calories in an hour. And training with the weights, maybe 400 or 600 calories an hour. And I add all these things into equation of how many calories your body needs. So when I determine this, I separate meals into small, frequent meals, as everybody else does. Like every 3 hours you would have a intake of certain nutrients. You get different kind of protein in each meal, let's say 5 to 6 meals, according to your needs. And that's like 3 grams per kilo of body weight, for women, and I go as high as 4 grams per man, for men. And then I would give you exactly amount of energy nutrients, either carbohydrates or fat, for next 3 hours. So if you have 3 hours of inactivity, I would put you on protein and fat, because you're not active. You don't want to play with your insulin levels and blood sugar level. So that's why I have to say low carbohydrate diets are effective, because if people don't take carbohydrates, the only fuel the body can use is fatty acids, either from fat that you're eating or fat that you're having, as a body fat. So it's very efficient. So basically, if people are inactive, I would put them on protein and fat. And then when you choose to be active and train maybe with the weights, at that time, glucose is going to be preferable energy fuel, substrate of utilization. Muscle contraction is impossible without glucose. So I supply carbohydrates right before the training, for the duration of the training, and immediately after. So I put as much fuel as we needed. So at all times, body doesn't have to convert one thing into another. And in these instances, health is dramatically increased, results are magnified. And after doing this for 20-something years now, I'm convinced it works in every single individual. Yeah. They would just have to really set the goals, what they want, lose body fat, gain muscle, or both at the same time, which is possible. Yep. And then structure the exact diet according to their daily activities. In 24 hours, if you train once a day or twice a day, those are the things that changes. But for me, my diet is, I say 3-hour diet. What is my next 3 hours of activity? That's what I put in. Yep. And every 3 hours I refuel my body with amount of energy that I need and the kind of energy that I need. If I'm going to do the cardio activity that uses fatty acids as a fuel, so I give fat. If I'm going to do muscle contraction type of training, I need glucose, so I give carbohydrate. Yeah.
Cool. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, and but for some reason it amazes me. Some people will tell me, yeah, it makes perfect sense, and then they don't do it. Yes. And
so you want to follow what's been done before.
Yes,
do the latest craze, or
I was seeing a lot of highly educated, extremely intelligent people who will come to me, for me to do the diet for them, and then when I tell them everything I say, I know I'm doing it wrong. And I say, okay, so how can you consider yourself highly intelligent and educated,
you're doing something you know
wanting results, and then telling me, that you already know that you're doing something wrong? Do you expect the right results? Yeah. So anybody, if anybody's going to ever listen to this, right? Yeah. I would say, be honest to yourself. I'm not being harsh. I'm just being honest. Yeah. Results are easy if you know what you're doing. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time. You've been very knowledgeable, and we really appreciate it. So for all the people wanting to learn more or attend any of your seminars, where will they be held next, and how can they find out more info?
I have my website, milossacrev.com, milossacrev.com. My partner here in Australia is Andy Bell, from Myoflex in Gold Coast. Yep. So you can find us on Facebook and send us info. I'm here now for short 3-day seminars, 3-day muscle camps. We're planning a little bit longer, and I think next time I come back to Australia is going to be like 5-day camp in many different cities.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yes.
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, thank you so much.